Hi, Tim Shields, Zaya America. I run the fantastic bookstore Kamiyama page. If you're a Western Toku fan of the past 2 years, you're likely familiar with my work in some capacity. Allow me to tell you a tale, gentle viewer. I have a deep history with Godzilla. We actually share a birthday with Seiji Takaiwa, Mr. Kamen Rider himself. Who gives a shit? My mother, bless her heart, raised me on the classics of the genre, from Godzilla to Gamera, from Super Ultraman to Zuram. No small feat considering this was the 90s, when the 2003 anime boom was still but a glimmer in the eyes of 4Kids entertainment. As a child, I would often borrow my sister's camcorder to make stop-motion videos of Veritex fighting kaiju, my favorite of which was a rubber seagull, which I aptly named Seagore, Lord of the Winds. Unfortunately, these videos were subsequently erased upon discovery, and Seagore was lost to time. My interest in the genre, however, has never dwindled. All of this really is just a very long way around to say I just never really got Ultraman. Okay.
3 hours later.
Oh my god, look, I have no beef with Ultraman existing. I like the guy. Seriously, look at all this shit that I own. That's so much oh my god, that's so much money.
You suck.
Point is, I've paid my dues, and I'm allowed to talk critically about this thing that we all love. Just remember, it's got a happy ending, alright? Hang in there. It's gonna be a rough first 20 minutes. I don't even know why I'm arguing this. I'm literally wearing a custom printed Ultraman shirt as part of my costume for these video essays. I promise I like it now, okay? I just never really connected with them, you know? They always sort of just show up, fight, and then piss off. When I first got into the franchise in high school, I dipped a toe into the Mill Creek OG Ultraman DVDs. And if you're familiar with the franchise, OG Ultraman, on a storytelling level, it leaves a little something to be desired. So everyone told me to watch Tiga, which I remembered from when I was a kid, and 4Kids dubbed a bunch of farts into it for some reason. I don't know, it's fine. It's super confined by the episodic nature of the show. The 23-minute mark kind of just cuts off any character development or plot progression, and I didn't really relate to any of the characters to begin with, so... So next I tried Orb, because my friend recommended it. I didn't like Orb, but also I still bought the figures and the movie and the spin-off. I don't know. I can't really put my finger on it, okay? There's just something about old Ultraman that I always found really alienating. Maybe it's the masks, you know? They're all stoic and, like, metallic, and they're devoid of emotion. And I realize that's like a traditional no-mask thing where I'm supposed to project emotion onto them given the context, but, like, seriously, 3 AM Ultraman challenge. And, like, I can't really tell them apart. A lot of the older ones, no offense, have very similar masks and colors, and, like, while I appreciate that those color schemes are that way so that they stand out against the more naturalistic tones of their environment and the kaiju that they're fighting, over time it all just sort of blends together, especially as a casual viewer, and especially when there's so little for me to relate to with the Ultras as characters. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's the lack of connection. Like, the Ultras by design just show up to silently fight for a few minutes every episode. There's no real showcase for them as individuals. How can I pick a favorite when I don't know anything about them as characters? I don't know. Sincerely. For the longest time I was content to say, hey, maybe Ultraman just isn't for me, and respect that it existed from a safe distance, huddled inside a protective shell of Super Sentai and Kamen Rider. And then one day, one of my friends messaged me. Oh my god, you jerk off. As the film opens, a guy fights a monster devoid of any context. A brief montage tells us that the Ultramans exist and also Zap Space exists. What they are is beyond me. Get used to it. You know, Carl Kasel, the creator of Superboy, once told me every issue is potentially somebody's first issue, and I think that rule is in full effect here. I have no idea what's going on for about 30 of the first 45 minutes of this film, and it has no interest in explaining itself. It's very exclusionary to casuals and newcomers, and that seems to run counterintuitive to it being a launching point for both Zero and his franchise. But we'll put a pin in that for now. We see the Land of Light. I don't know why they're complaining. I think it looks great. And get a few shots of Ultraman's training as the Showa Bros discuss the fact that there's an odd flux in the power core, but they must wait for him to finish training before they investigate. An Ultraman arrives at a small bunker guarded by two unnamed Ultramans with staves. They are one-shotted. Inside, the Ultraman who's a bad guy transforms into a taxon from Animorphs, bragging about how powerful his staff is and explaining that this virtually unmanned closet he broke into with zero effort houses the Dark Ultraman Belial, who is bricked up behind a wall like the cask of Amontillado. The monster breaks him out, and Belial proceeds to kill the shit out of him because he's evil! A bunch of Ultramans show up to fight him before it cuts away to other Ultramans flying very awkwardly to the scene. Returning to the Death Star... Returning to the Death Star, the Ultramans engage in the fight we just saw them get into, having spent the last 2 minutes stretching and getting onto their marks. Belial he just kicks the shit out of everyone. Anyway, Taro, I think, shows up and, in a surprise gamble, tackles Belial down to the Land of Light, where it's revealed that he accidentally landed on his head and passed out. Belial whips more ass with zero effort, because he brought a shotgun to a fist fight, and this dingus accidentally tases his girlfriend. Belial throws around Method Man and Red Man before being charged by 3 dudes in capes. They fight for like 5 minutes, and then Belial wins by shark-kicking one of the guys and blowing up their glass houses. Belial walks onto a different green screen and is attacked by more Ultramans. Surprise, they fight. Belial wins. With these ones dispatched, Belial approaches the MCP from Tron, being stopped by Ultraman Mom and Ultraman Dad, who ask him his goal. Belial says he wants absolute power so he can create a new world order because, sure, why not? So, it actually recently came out that it's because this lady cucked him one time. Like, a long time ago. So, it seems she dodged a bullet. So to speak. Belial takes the Bifrost sword from the Master Computer program, and the Land of Light and its inhabitants are frozen over by After Effects, making the film a lot easier to look at. Belial fucks off and Taro lights himself on fire in order to keep the planet from going out. He immediately freezes over, so I don't know how that helps, but whatever, point is, only Zero and that guy Belial threw into space earlier, Nebius, are around to help because the Ultras banished Zero one time for asking why dark people are inherently bad. Nebius talks to some Force ghosts in space, and they immediately tell him to go find Zero because he's their only hope. We cut to the Zap ship landing on planet Dent, where a meteor immediately lands in front of them. It unfolds like a Bakugan to reveal a kaiju, and they shoot the hell out of it, which it doesn't like at all. One of them pulls out a Digivice and summons Gamora in attack position, and we have another fight, albeit a much cooler one given it's on an actual set and not using anime physics. The Zappers shoot it with their plane, and Gamora plays some slap-ass before goring the monster with his horn until it explodes.
Come on, man, get you some. Come on, let's get some slap ass over here.
No!
Why not?
Gamora returns to his Pokeball just as Mebius arrives in bad shape. He touches this guy named Ray, and they disappear in a beam of light. Ray awakens. Am I in purgatory? Oh, no, this is hell. He meets Mirai Hibino, aka Mebius, I guess, who tells Ray of an alien named Raybrad. He sucked and was bad. Yeah, I know. Mirai tells Ray about Planet Ultra, where the Ultramans once looked basically like Japanese people. Oh, no, trust me, I'm every bit as surprised as you are. Until one day the sun blew up and they built a tower to fake a new one. Is anyone else getting Highlander 2 vibes? Anyway, it turns out that the fake sun morphed them on a genetic level and turned them into gargantuan alien gods who chose to be space cops. What this represents, I'm unsure of, to say the least. It's around here we notice that this movie isn't really saying much. There's a lot happening, but nothing is happening. Man's due a fight, but for what purpose? A fake sun. Belial doesn't even have a backstory yet, never mind a philosophy and ideal that he can test against our archetypal good guy heroes. He's just some dude who lived in a space closet that nobody ever talked about. There's this weird reliance that this movie has, and I think a lot of older Ultraman has, on the audience being familiar with the past 50 or so years of canon, but there's no real payoff to it. The Ultras aren't characters, they have no real distinguished personalities and exist as power sets rather than people, which poses a major problem when they tell stories about the Ultras without host bodies. We get good guy Ultraman and bad guy Ultraman, and that's not a compelling premise for 2 hours, at least for me. Mirai tells Rei that Ray Brad's space soul took over some incel who got kicked out of the planet for trying to steal the fake sun, and that's how we got Belial. Again, I want to reinforce that Belial did this because a girl didn't want to go out with him one time and it made him sad. As our heroes watch in a flashback, Belial continues to just mercilessly beat everyone he comes across until Ultraman King shoots him with gold Snapchat filters. King seals Belial in the fridge we saw earlier and puts it on a rock somewhere and forgets about it. Anyway, now Belial is back and everyone is fucked. Mirai and Rei decide to team up to fight the Space Devil. Meanwhile, at the monster graveyard in the Grave Gate, Belial frees a bunch of dead monsters? I don't know, it's the Green Lantern prison and the Phantom Zone combined, okay? You figure it out. I'm just here to discuss the allegory. Point is, he has an army, and the Ultras are all iced over right now, so the only resistance is 2 dicks and some guy they've never met. Rei and Mirai go to the Land of Light and see the Ultras frozen over like fish before being attacked by multiple kaiju and a karate bug man? Mirai engages the rider as Rei runs off to play Beyblades, but his launch is thrown off and he immediately gutters. The monsters stare at Rei the entire time and do nothing as Mirai fights for their lives before other kaiju show up and save the pair, led by Machine Gun Jedi. The day is saved by questionable CGI before the Jedi reveal they are also monster ranchers. Plus Ultramans, they got it all, and they can't even help because
Ultraman として戦うこともできない。
Regardless, Belial revived a bunch of kaiju, so they have to go to the Tower Sun thing and turn their planet off and on again. Meanwhile, on planet K76... Two Ultramans are training, but one is distinctly restricted by a big metal implement running across his body, which fucking pisses him off, and he says so. He proceeds to get his ass kicked, but he keeps getting up angrier as King and an Ultraman watch on from the distance. Cutting back to Hoth, the Ultra Jedi inform Rei that this mysterious warrior, Zero, once pulled the same shit Belial did and tried to touch the Sun Cube out of curiosity, and his own dad said he was worthless and banished him and wrapped him up in this weird torture suit we just saw. Importantly, Zero is notably pissed about his treatment despite the narrative deeming it just. It's a distinctly different vibe from the reverential patriarchy of the past 45 minutes of my life and the past 45 years of the series. Flipping back to Dead Space 3, Rei and Mirai are attacked by more giant monsters, so they jump down a hole into the sun where Jeff Goldblum catches up to them and another gunfight ensues because it's been 60 seconds. The Jedi uses Force Hold to incapacitate the Fly, then shoots him off a cliff with his machine gun as Gamora uses his Z move to finish off the kaiju pursuing them. Using what is only described as ultra willpower, the 3 Jedi light up Taro's life, allowing him to turn their toys back on so they can change again. Quick, boys, to Mustafar! Arriving on the volcano planet, we quickly realize why the Land of Light is green, because holy shit, look at the halo on these, dude! Where is this set? Fucking Wonderworld? Supro, I do better chroma key than this, and I've been doing it for 2 weeks! You should hire me. Belial shoots his load at the team, and his children quickly swarm the field for yet another big fight. Oh hey, it's Twintail! I actually have him, he's very good. On the Zap spaceship, the team discusses why they can't join the movie, when suddenly they're attacked by a UFO that's a dragon. What? No, I have no criticism. It's a ship that turns into a dragon. That's fucking sick. A Cyclops we've never met, named Alien Zeton, beams aboard to kill the crew, when suddenly some guy named Asuka teleports in from out of nowhere to solve the problem with yet another fight scene. Apparently he's another Ultraman, and this one guy gets really excited about it. They decide to go to the monster graveyard before they remember there's a fucking robot dragon crushing their ship. Ultraman turns into Ultraman, and the robot dragon blows up, with the ship departing. Back on Mustafar, Rei reveals he was secretly B-Fighter Kabuto the whole time, and uses his yokai watch to transform, turning the tables on the various aliens who were caressing him. Belial shoots the other Ultramans, and Rei deploys more Dragomons to combat him, but they're quickly dispatched. Belial grows in size as he offers an allegiance to Rei, whom he considers a brother given their shared parentage. Rei gets mad and flames on, which apparently makes him a berserk monster, so that was a bad move. He uses Gamora to beat up the 3 Ultramans for some reason that is not even remotely communicated, now apparently following Belial's commands as Zap and Dinah show up. Dinah tackles Belial into space as Zap tries to calm Rei back down by saying they're his family and not Belial, something Rei demonstrably already knew, and nothing works till Captain Space punches him in the chest, but that solves it immediately. Anime. If your friend is having an emotional meltdown, just punch them really, really hard. More kaiju are killed by an Ultraman known as Seven as he tosses his mohawk into space, collapsing. Rei screams as the green screen begins bleeding into his flesh, fusing him into the void beyond. We cut back to Zero's training, where he saves the life of a small monster on instinct. King arrives to remind him that if Zero's dad hadn't beat him and kicked him off the planet, Zero would have been dead from touching a sunbox, just as Seven's hair lands on the planet, begging his son he kicked around and abandoned to come save his ass. Zero's armor is finally unlocked because his punishment was entirely framed around his value to this ultra hierarchy, and he fucks off as far as he can as fast as he can. It's worth noting that this is a parallel of Seven's brutal training of Leo in Ultraman Leo, and in my opinion it serves as quite the admonishment of the traditional hypermasculine ideals of both Showa and Heisei Ultraman series prior. Where Leo gets beaten down into the ground and turns that abuse on its head by hardening himself to the brutality of the world, Zero questions why he's being punished for nothing. He defies the established nature of convention itself. Where Leo fought for his place in a world of merit, Zero dismisses the idea that merit has to be earned. Life inherently has value, not only for the strongest among us. He heads to Mustafar, grabbing his dad and taking him to die alone before finally introducing himself as his own person for the first time in his life. All of the anger, the rage, the hostility of Belial is housed in this body just as well, but now directed right back at Belial's forces. The odds are leveled just as quickly as they were when it was Ultras being slaughtered en masse, and we can see that Belial is genuinely upset for the first time all movie. However, that's reflected in Zero, who, unlike all of the other Ultras trying to preach compassion to Belial, states outright that he hates him and he will hurt him for what he's done. The tone of the fight is an immediate shift, faster, stronger, and bigger than the rest of the movie, the camera struggling to comprehend the events playing out before it, much less keep up. And above all else, Belial gets fucked up for the first time ever, Zero not giving him a second to catch his breath in the volley and blasting him off a cliff into the lava below. Just consider this. If there's one thing that this movie has communicated well, and I argue it is one thing so far, it's that Belial is untouchable. It spent the entire length of a film telling us that at the absolute best, you'd be lucky to even hit him once, never mind it registering. Suddenly Zero, who we've just learned is cut from the same angry, vengeful cloth, is juggling him across a planet as his first act on screen. Ignoring the physical damage, think of the damage to Belial's pride right now. The group doesn't celebrate for long, however, as the souls of the monsters flow into the lava, which begins roiling over, erupting into a Lovecraftian monolith, Belial at the head. Well, that certainly is several monsters stapled together. But something has changed about the atmosphere. Nobody's afraid anymore. Even as body after body falls to this new challenge, even as this nightmare Belial threatens them, Ray resets his Tamagotchi clock to put the monsters to sleep, and the rest of the Elder Ultramen decide their best hope is to support the next generation rather than suppressing it. With the entire team coming together to drain Belial's resources, the Devil swears to return, to which Zero replies that it's good, because it means he can kill him again. Zero lops off Belial's head, and the day is saved by the Black Sheep of the multiverse, a man who touched the same sun Belial did and remained pure, who was awakened to new truths the previous generations of Ultras blinded themselves to, bearing a torch to light the way for the new generation of heroes. As the Land of Light is restored, our team says their goodbyes, everyone heading in their own directions. Except Zero, who has never had a future available to him, never had a life. His father arrives behind him, revived, to finally tell Zero he's proud of him for once, something Zero earned entirely on his own. In space, we see that Belial is not dead yet, setting us up for the infinitely better sequel. So ends Mega Monster Battle. What a bad movie. Holy shit, was that inaccessible to anybody who hasn't memorized the entire Ultraman wiki. A sentiment echoed by every single person that I have shown it to outside of the diehard Ultraman community, and frankly, many within it. In my opinion, it is awful as a standalone launch feature for a new Ultra because it gatekeeps both casual and new audience members, which you would think would be exactly what you want to draw in with it. And as a lore movie, it's a failure because all we learned is the planet's powered by a fake sun, some dude was really mad and got locked in a closet for a few years one time, and Seven is just an awful father. However, in the third act, it seems to wake up and realize all of that. It's like the director saw the first hour of the movie and then suddenly went, "Oh my god, what have I done?" From the hour mark, the film uses Zero as a vessel to explore the parts of the movie that aren't working and correct for them. It demands an explanation for the previous 45 years of Ultraman for the sake of the audience, and I really appreciate that. It's just really neat to me because it's so wildly antithetical to the rigid hierarchical standards of every Ultra show up to that point that I had engaged with. The entire species came down to this one guy's whim like a golden sun, and he just sort of chose to be nice, despite having every reason in the world to want them dead like Belial, given the punishment of Zero for the sins of Belial prior. It actively challenges the idea that the Ultra Patriarchs are inherently good or right, on a level that is, at the very least subconsciously, accessible to children, while blending the origin story of the hero and the villain like a writer season to add a degree of nuance to the conversation that's drastically expanded on in the sequel works, like Revenge of Belial and Jeed, which I think Ultraman could stand to gain a lot from. But speaking of Revenge of Belial, let's press on, because the conversation is about to become a lot more interesting, and I promised you a happy ending. The movie opens on Belial leading an army of robots to attack an unnamed planet. He digs his claws into the neck of a character named Mirror Knight, who we'll see later. Shifting over to the Land of Light, which already looks a lot better, we can see much the same is occurring over there. Zero arrives amongst the panic to reinforce how much cooler he is than everyone else. We can immediately see that the planet has been drastically redesigned, with the crew apparently over the idea that green screen bleed is an inevitability. This allows them to create much more dynamic shots, which means the action can be more dynamic than some dudes in suits flipping around a stage. The camera and angles pull us into the action and put us right in the center of the battle with our heroes, and it makes a world of difference. 3 Darklopsi arrive, and Zero engages them with his father, Ultra 7. There's a huge improvement to choreography to this fight over Mega Monster Battle, and the pair make quick work of the robots, with one attempting to escape but being shot down by Zero using a really hot finisher to show off the new effects engine. The Ultramans gather to discuss an artifact which converts matter to antimatter, using it to send a beam to another universe. We're shown that the Elder Ultras have no idea what's going on, and it's decided to send an ambassador to explore the new universe. Zero steps up, offering his help in a moment of hesitation by the old generation. This is demonstrative of how Zero, who spent the past few hundred years isolated from this society, is unencumbered by their biases and fear in the face of the unknown. He's young and he's spent his life bound in a prison. To him, this isn't an end, but a beginning. As Zero prepares to embark, his father bequeaths him two gifts, a staff and what's known as the plasma bracelet, which functions as his tension device on his journey. It's made clear that it only has 3 charges, so he'll have to pick his battles carefully. The Ultras all extend their arms, projecting their hope into the bastard child of the planet as the theme song Suzume Zero kicks in and melts my fucking face off, played against Zero traveling across the multiverse. He emerges in grand space, an altar plane where he's able to see the entire multiverse. It's a gorgeous effect that I've only ever seen in Silver Age comics, and a fantastic example of how Tsuburaya has consciously evolved their game since the last entry. Zero penetrates the membrane of the movie's setting, and the artifact explodes in his hands, inferring to us that he is temporarily stuck there and cut off from his world. We cut to Tatooine, where a group of moisture farmers are being attacked by giant robots called Legionoids. We follow a pair of brothers as they disrupt the assault with a small mining vessel, luring the robot into a lava pit and pulling out just in time. They take a moment to celebrate before the mech erupts and reveals how Pyrrhic this victory truly was. The kids, Now and his brother Ron, are thrown from safety towards the lava, with Now dangling precariously over the edge of a short drop. Ron's necklace glows as he struggles to save his younger brother, which seems to reach across the cosmos to Zero. The Legionoid strikes, sending both boys into the lava. Suddenly, a golden glow descends from the heavens, rescuing the two and obliterating the mech. The pair mistake Zero for a Darklops momentarily, but Ron is able to make the distinction upon further examination before collapsing to his wounds. He bequeaths his necklace to Now before apparently dying, as Zero watches, himself denied the native solar power of his universe's sun. Ron asks Zero to take care of his brother, and Zero silently extends his hand. Zero begins to glow, and the light of his essence incorporates itself into Ron, fusing the two into one being and reviving the latter. Something I never really appreciated about Ultraman is how much the Ultras lack personal identity and agency, functioning more as a power set for their human hosts. In watching Tiga in the original series, I often longed for any sense of who Ultraman or Tiga were as creatures, but the show insists on keeping them silent and isolated to fight scenes. We did occasionally see glimpses of them toying with the idea, with series like Ultra 7 and Leo making their own human forms and living amongst their people, but that never comes to much in their series given the episodic nature, needing the setting and characters to reset for the next episode.
I'm not a human being like you. I'm Ultra 7. I'm sorry, Anne.
It's okay.
It is cool that Zero is Seven's son, and it feels like a natural extension of the concepts that show introduced, which would explain why Seven is such a beloved fan favorite. But this is the first time we see those principles expanded upon to the point of producing actual long-term character development, and that's worth recognizing. In becoming Ron for the rest of the movie, we're able to see Zero's perspective outside of the battles, and he's allowed a level of agency denied to the protagonists before this point in the series. He makes decisions, not Ron. He feels things about the situations he encounters, not Ron. He has conversations with his friends and forges bonds and learns and grows, and we're able to tangibly see that, which is a massive leap forward for the traditionally episodic Ultraman franchise, and something we see them continue to varying degrees of success in later New Generation series like Rube and Jeed. No longer is the Ultraman a cannon to be pointed at enemies. Now the Ultraman has become a regular human being. He's one of us, capable of the same pride and weakness and anger as we are, but he has the power to do the things we can't about the systems causing those problems, making it more like Kamen Rider than intergalactic wrestling. This is, of course, progressed with his later appearance in Jeed, where it becomes more about his ideals overlapping with his human host Leido's, but we'll be covering that in a follow-up video. Ron wakes up as more Legionoids arrive, ushering Now to a nearby cave for shelter. Now tries to make small talk, but Zero reveals he's piloting Ron for the time being. Now asks if Ron died, and Zero goes quiet, unsure of what to say. He ultimately lands on "it's okay," and explains that the two are sharing a body because Zero liked seeing how Ron protected Now earlier. Zero assures Now that Ron will return, and in the meantime he is under Zero's protection, promising he won't allow any harm to come to him. Now takes a moment before deciding to trust Zero because Ron trusted Zero. As the pair shake hands, the necklace glows, and Now informs Zero it's called the Shield of Baradhi, an artifact from an old legend on the planet of an ancient savior, something which will be important later. The pair examine a wall of emeralds that are used as a power source for the Darklopsian Legionoids, implying these people are slaves of Kaiser Belial. Suddenly they are disrupted by the cave splitting apart, a tremendous ship enveloping them and lifting them into the air. On board, they discover a very regal woman sitting apprehensively. She refuses to answer their prompts, and as they step forward, they get electrocuted, and her computer announces they will have their minds wiped. She finally stands, ordering the torture to stop, and Zero, frankly understandably, is pissed. She's introduced as Princess Emerana Luludo, and her ship as Jean Bird. She escaped the planet in fear after Kaiser Belial raided it looking for her family already having been wiped out. She has no one, like Zero, like Now. Now steps up, offering to be her friend, the next generation offering hope to the one before, as Zero watches, analyzing, empathizing, and then taking Now's side in support. Something I really love about Zero is that due to his experience, his backstory in Mega Monster Battle, he really understands and emphasizes the importance of free will. He's like the Watcher with a temper. Zero watches footage of Belial raiding Esmeralda, seething with hatred at the sight. We see again that Belial has harvested entire planets for resources to build his army, creating a multiversal fascist war machine. Zero explains the Ultras, specifically calling Belial his kin, meaning he's the only Ultra at this point who genuinely regards Belial as one of his own gone wrong, and providing him with a layer of nuance to his anger that we've been lacking in previous seasons' bastions of black and white morality. The trio decide to bet on a legend to defeat a legend, which isn't as ridiculous as it seems given Zero's recognition of its power earlier, and set out to seek the Shield of Baradhi. The first encounter on their journey sets them against the Pirates of Fire, legendary criminals who use their resources and community to rebel against Belial with the help of their giant alien friend Glenfire. Why the fuck do more movies not just have space pirates that are literally just pirates in space? Glenfire and the campy Buccaneers call the ship out for trespassing in their space, and Zero says he'll go talk to them. He transforms and flies out, being mistaken as a Darklops and establishing himself as Zero before immediately getting punched in the face and becoming angry again. Glenfire rushes in and lays out a full combo, feeling cocky till Zero no-sells it like John Cena a moment later. Glenfire says he'll only talk if Zero can beat him, and Zero accepts the terms, immediately returning the first hit 20,000-fold. He mimics Glenfire's movements, goading him the same way he just was. He engages Glenfire with boxing to fight on his level, so Glenfire switches up to wrestling, and Zero returns it with interest, finally earning some genuine respect from his foe. Zero gets the game now, and continues the fight, explaining their quest, which gives Glenfire pause. He says they'll never be able to get there even if he tells them what he knows, and Zero says to get over himself because other people exist in the universe and they need help. Belial's general, Dark Gone, arrives to give the conversation pause, and the pair decide to unite against a common enemy, the pirates vocalizing their support and then fucking the hell off. Glenfire contemplates their words, that they always knew there would come a time for Glenfire to use his power for something greater, as Zero yells for him to pay attention to the war going on around him. The pirates blaze the path forward for the pair, and the two manage to carve ahead into the army, quickly becoming friends. So I'm realizing now as I'm filming this that this is clearly echo chamber criticism. Glenfire has insulated himself in this space pirate community that already regards him as a champion, so he's beginning to stagnate and he's bored. And it isn't until Zero rocks up and challenges him that he's able to evolve and actually bear witness to the class struggle of his peers taking place across the galaxy outside of his isolated little bubble that he's created for himself in this zone. That's really neat. That's really cool. I love that I can come back to this movie for a 7th time and pick up on something, brand new that I can actually layer over my life like a template in order to challenge my own moral code, my sense of justice, my rhetoric, whatever you want to call it. I think that's neat. I think that that's what tokusatsu should be. So, well done, Tsuburaya. Back to the video. Zero's color timer goes off, meaning he's running out of stored solar energy. Glenfire notices. He ignites himself, going supernova and telling Zero to head to the mirror universe. He gives Zero his name, smiling and throwing himself into a cosmic sea to create a massive explosion and drive Belial's forces that survive back for the moment. As the trio are engulfed in the explosion, Zero is knocked out, remembering the day Ron received the shard of the Shield of Barati from his father. He explains the legend in its base form, how it's a cosmic source of protection to give them hope, and we're given a beat to enjoy the peace humanity can find in community even on this slave world. Plus, look at all the effort that went into this megaphone. It's all cobbled together from camp materials. There's no Wikipedia article on it. They don't even mention that it exists. It just is there on the screen for a couple of seconds in a flashback to give us an idea of what it's like to live in this world, in these conditions, as part of this family. That's cool. That's world building, dude. Zero wakes up, remembering he's Ron, and takes a moment to recover. Now wakes up from a nightmare, calling Zero Big Brother in his confusion. Now expresses his insecurity about his strength, but also the fact that he still feels compelled to do something about the state of his universe. Zero begins training him in martial arts as Emerana watches, never having socialized much due to her position. Our heroes arrive at the mirror dimension, and Emerana explains how Mirror Knight fell protecting her as she fled her planet being taken at the start of the film, subsequently becoming corrupted by Belial's influence. The party enters the world, giving us yet another amazing alien landscape I've never seen before in media, and proving imagination is not dead, but simply segregated to tokusatsu. They commune with a gigantic snowflake, imploring it to assist them in their war. It argues that they have nothing to offer the party, showing them how Mirror Knight is tainted by his depression. He sits alone at the bottom of a dark lake, devoid of all color, in a fetal position for comfort. Zero is disgusted at the injustice of the situation, but notably and importantly, not at Mirror Knight for feeling that way, knowing full well what it is to be in that position himself. He transforms, diving into the water and asking Mirror Knight to help their cause. Mirror Knight says not to look at him because he's pathetic, and Zero says, "Fuck you, King, you're killing it," which Mirror Knight can't reconcile. Zero introduces himself, the golden Chad of his world, and Mirror Knight melts down in inferiority simply from the reputation. He attacks Zero, much the way many people attack the things they're envious of in real life, with Zero not fighting back, but instead choosing to restrain him. Anime. If your friend is having an emotional wait a minute! Zero recognizes that Mirror Knight is in an emotionally fragile state because Zero was just there last movie. He can empathize, and instead of slapping him around to make him wake up like some 70s anime, Zero holds Mirror Knight until he feels better about himself. He doesn't carry a grudge about it afterwards, he doesn't hold it over his head for the rest of the movie. Mirror Knight is allowed to simply feel his pain, and his pain is considered valid by the narrative. 2 charges down. Emperor Snowflake acknowledges that Zero is a real Sigma male and says he can hang out with Mirror Knight. Unfortunately, once again, their moment is cut short by the onslaught of Belial constantly at their heels, led by his other general. Laren? Iron?
Hey, Ron.
Look, all I'm saying is I'm enjoying the movie. I'm having a good time. It's a good movie. The whole Mirror Knight posing a threat from a 2D plane thing, though, is kind of negated because you can just go around him. You know what I mean? Like, this is a mirror, right? So you do one of these, right? You just, you just fucking go around, oh, hey, look, it's both my Grand Ride watches. Oh, man. Oh, that's pretty cool that I have both. The leads escape through an inexplicable cavern, encountering a gigantic statue of what is clearly an Ultraman, but recognized as Barati. They see a slot for the necklace, and now inserts it. The room rumbles, rocks crumbles, and nothing happens. Now's hope falters, but Zero reassures him that he should have faith in his brother if nothing else, and Emerana backs him up on that point. Now grapples with his reality scaled against his expectation as they hear a loud impact. The General, who I've decided does not even deserve a name, overpowers Mirror Knight, and the dimension begins to shatter, splitting the trio. Zero tries to transform to save the two against their protests, but the Zero Eye is knocked into a pit, sending him diving after it. The universe is shattered, and Zero is engulfed in very familiar flames. He awakens in a perfect adaptation of Brainiac from Superman's lair, and we pan out to reveal this is Belial's empire. Zero is contained in a glass bottle, Kandor style, and Belial makes his presence known. Zero seethes powerlessly as Belial recounts their last encounter, laughing off the suggestion of his posing any threat trapped in a human body. Zero's forces are scattered, if not dead, and Belial holds his final Zero Eye in the palm of his clawed hand. He prepares his millionth raid, a final massive assault on the Land of Light, as Zero watches, helpless as a pony in a cum jar. Zero's father and the OG Ultraman inspired by Zero lead the Ultras to counter the assault, but are very, very quickly overwhelmed. Dark Gun returns as Belial cackles, informing his leader of John Bird's approach. Zero screams for them to run, but now sends them a comm, informing him they're coming to save him. Emerana joins him, and Zero, finally understanding what it is to have a family, weeps. From that tear springs Mirror Knight, who liberates Zero and salts Belial's whole game. He fastball specials Zero into the path of his eye, and Zero transforms for the last time, laying waste to Belial's entire operation and proclaiming that Nazis get boots. This isn't Kamen Rider. There's not a lot of cool discussions about philosophy or the human condition going on right now. But what there is pure, raw, unadulterated rage on display from both parties, and the interesting silent point that Zero defeats Belial here using the moves he learned from his encounters with all of his friends along the way. Mirror Knight being there for him when he was helpless, now and Emerana having asked him to have faith in them to save him. Shoutouts to Glenfire for that endlessly entertaining pile driver, and not the endless beatdowns he received as penance for the crimes of daring to challenge the authority figures who were too scared to do anything in the face of this new threat. I really like that Zero ultimately saves the day here by showing emotional vulnerability to his friends. In Mega Monster Battle, it was very much the Showa tradition of him very aggressively destroying the thing he hates, but throughout the events of Revenge of Belial, he has learned to live differently from Belial by instead striving to protect the people who have genuinely accepted him. John Bird sweeps the scene, encountering Dark Gun and being driven to the ground. Mirror Knight fights that other guy.
It's pronounced Aaron?
Son of a bitch! You done messed up, Aaron!
His star is unable to find purchase against the hard armor exoskeleton, only barely cracking one spot. John Bird's power has been shut down by the impact, so Emerana runs to the fuel room, revealing her bloodline is inherently fueled by the emeralds of her planet or some shit. Whatever, who cares? Fuck Divine Right. Then jumps in, powering Jean Bird back up. It asks now to step onto the VR pad like they had for that one arcade game where you're shooting dudes and you can move around, revealing it was a Transformers the whole time, and honestly, a pretty sick one. He goes all Sevenger on Dark Gon's ass, and we can see a lot of Zero's earlier moves coming back in this fight, because Zero taught Now how to fight along their journey earlier. There's this cool endless cycle of synergistic learning on both ends of the generational conversation in this movie, and I think that's a big part of the reason that Zero became Tsuburaya's golden boy for the next decade. It's also worth noting here that Zero's allies are all analogs of Supro's secondary Showa hero properties, demonstrating a deep reverence for their roots while also acknowledging a need to evolve with the times, and I respect the hell out of that. Dark Gon tases Jean Bird, who falls to his knees in pain. The General draws closer to deliver the finishing blow, and then now reveals that robots don't even have a nervous system actually, so he just gets up and beats the shit out of him. And I like that, because it's clever and plays on our expectations and not recognizing a robot as anything more than a man in a suit. It's an exclusively tokusatsu meta joke. Mirror Knight steals his resolve, going full Haku from Naruto on his foe and striking the single dent he managed to make in the armor initially, killing this fucking guy in honestly a pretty brutal fashion for a kid's show. I kinda dig it. Mirror Knight and Jean Bird reconnect, approaching Belial's base, which explodes with eldritch energy. It's revealed that he's absorbed all of the emerald power, or whatever he was harvesting all movie, and has transformed himself into this dope-ass kaiju. And the green screen doesn't even look bad, and it's a dude in a suit, so they can have a full range of realistic motion in a realistic fashion, and like, he just starts fucking wailing on Zero, and punching his face and crushing him. It's so fucking cool. It's like Ozaru, but in live action. No, wait, no, it's not. It's not like that. It's... God damn it. It's not like that, okay? I'm sorry I said that. I got carried away. It's nothing like that. I promise. Suddenly, when all hope is lost, out of nowhere comes a spark. Glenfire rocks up, decking Belial and freeing Zero as the cavalry of all the people Zero and crew helped over the movie finally show to support them in their hour of need. That's so cool. That's such a sick space battle. Like, that's Starjammer shit. That's the shit I used to dream about as a kid, you know what I mean? Like, I don't even care that Glenfire just came back out of nowhere, because the emotions of the moment just carry you through the logic. Who cares? Ultra Sentai Zero Ranger squads up, catching up on being kings as Belial rages, firing a massive mouthbeam at them for daring to have a good time in his presence. They throw up a collaborative shield, protecting each other from the blast, but it's no good. Belial is just too fucking mad that a girl didn't think he was hot one time. Zero refuses to lose hope as he slips into unconsciousness, his friends picking up his slack. Now thinks back to the statue they saw earlier, telling Zero that when everyone comes together, the Shield of Ferrati will awaken. It's their shared idealism, their bonds, the struggle of the disenfranchised against a world that wants us dead that powers it. The universe alights. Every nation comes together against the threat of fascism, pooling their resources, their time, their worlds, their love into Zero, a man denied all of it for his entire life. He awakens in a place beyond place, and is approached by the tremendous statue they encountered earlier. It pours its cosmic warmth into him, and Zero screams as he stands on the shoulders of giants. This is so cool to me, because it's a traditional Lovecraftian horror sequence but played in reverse. Where Cthulhu or Azathoth would bring madness or destruction, Ultraman Noah brings benevolence and warmth. He's this idea that maybe in the grand scheme of things we aren't inconsequential, because we matter to each other in the moment, and the moment is all that we have in the universe. Like the cadre of monsters in Mega Monster Battle, I have no idea who he is, but the framing of the scene teases and intrigues me, making me want to learn more about him, rather than frustrating me with the information overload of the previous entry. It makes a world of difference in welcoming me to this series as a relative outsider, and that's a beautiful display of everything the movie is trying to communicate to us. Noah is the world opening itself up to Zero for the first time, the love his father denied him, the acceptance he never felt for himself found in the people he surrounded himself with. The shield appears again, now golden, blowing back Belial's forces and reforming into Zero, now equipped with the shield as armor. He swings his arms and kills the army. Belial curses him and Zero curses him right back. Fuck you.
Fuck you.
Fuck you.
Fuck you.
Fuck you.
Fuck you.
Fuck you. Belial falls back on his breath weapon, having rolled a 6 this turn and recharged it. But Zero is ready with the Spirit Bomb as his allies adapt, flanking Belial to distract him. They're easily thrown aside and Belial shoots his shot, with Zero apparently not noticing. Suddenly he shatters, and Mirror Knight reveals it was an illusion he set up during the distraction earlier. Zero instant transmission Spirit Bombs Belial for the win, and it is every bit as rad as it sounds. Hey Tim, what are you doing? Oh, nothing much actually. I'm just watching Space Devil Godzilla get burned by an intergalactic spirit bomb. It's only one of the coolest things I've ever seen in my life. What are you up to? Belial is destroyed, his army reduced to cinders by the blast, his base leveled to space rubble. Zero, rather than celebrating himself, thanks everyone who helped him.
As he snaps back to reality, he's greeted by his friends and the armies of nations standing before him in thanks for what he's done, finally accepted by everyone as his father arrives to see the moment. Back aboard Jean Bird, Zero and now grieve for Emirana, neither having had a chance to say goodbye to their friend before she just walks out, totally fine. Okay.
Turns out Emerald Energy is basically just bad gas. You gotta let it out every once in a while. She's a princess, so she has a closet for it.
Now is both devastated and forever changed by the knowledge that women do, in fact, also poop. On other Star Wars planet.
Look, dude, I don't watch Star Wars, okay?
Luke and Leia meet up one more time. He presents her with the tiara he found and sets off as Now shows up. Zero unfuses himself from Ron without saying goodbye, and Ron passes the hell out. Regaining consciousness, he reveals that he forgets the entire experience with Zero. Now begs Zero to stay, never having gotten a chance to thank him, but Zero sticks around just out of sight to hear it, satisfied with his reward. As he departs, the crew rocks up, and Zero realizes he no longer has to be alone, challenging them to keep up with him like he did his last family.
I feel like these two movies in conjunction represent Supro making a conscious decision to grow up. In the former Mega Monster Battle, we see the dawning realization that the old guard is simply out of new ideas, and watch as they fail to keep the spark of hope that was Ultraman burning as brightly as it once did. The effects are antiquated, the choreography is stiff and theatrical, and the archetypes are, well, archetypal. If you don't know who Rei and Mirai are, or any of these people they keep throwing at the screen, it's like watching Endgame as your first foray into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Except Endgame is supposed to be the end, and this is supposed to be the beginning of a new generation of heroes. Throughout Mega Monster Battle, there's this unshakable sense of judgment of both Belial and Zero for behaving the same way. But what I find interesting about the two films as a pair is the changing stance on the subject as we become informed of the context separating Zero from Belial by spending time with Zero, which is a discovery we, for once, make alongside the Ultras rather than being informed of it by them. In Mega Monster Battle, we're sideline witnesses to the events of the movie, with Zero being kept out of sight until he's trotted out as a weapon for the planet's monarchy. He's still the cannon being pointed at the Ultras' enemies, but this time he is also their enemy, and he has to earn their respect by rebuking their expectations of what he would become by killing Belial, his dark mirror, signified by it being what returns his father both to life in the living sense, but also to Zero's life, having been isolated for years from any sense of familial love. He's fighting for recognition, for status, in a world that hates him, much like a Showa Ultra series, and that's a very interesting and sinister perspective on the Ultraman society that I appreciate as somebody who never really grokked with it. Conversely, Revenge of Belial untethers him from that reality, that world, that system, and allows Zero the independence to decide for himself what he wants. Rather than a king trotting him out to kill their enemies, Zero seizes free reign for the first time ever, setting out on his own to establish a personal sense of justice through his encounters with the people he meets. He isn't pointed at Belial, he's given a compass and finds his own way to the conclusion that Belial is flawed, but still his family and therefore his responsibility to take care of one way or the other. It's the shifting of narrative from one film to the next that highlights the birth of the new generation of heroes. Where Mega Monster Battle chastised Zero for daring to challenge authority without ever asking why he did it, Revenge of Belial is concerned entirely with why Zero does the things he does. And that's something we see more and more of in subsequent series, like Rube exploring an intimate family dynamic as a deconstruction of what it means to apply tokusatsu as a template to real-life situations. In Jeed, as Belial's son grapples to defy a genetic heritage of evil. In Trigger, as a gardener learns that sometimes you have to fight to preserve peace. Oh my god, his sword is a garden spade that turns into pruning shears. How am I just figuring this out? You know, it took me a year to realize that Zeo's face is a watch. My point is, what these two movies have shown us is a company choosing to try something new by replacing the more conservative, outdated elements of the media with genuine progressiveness and faith in a new wave of creatives with new ideas, who grew up on Ultraman and have a mutual love and respect for it. And I think that's key to the future growth of any media, especially on the international scale both Supro and Toei have been employing for the past few years. There's a reason that Ultraman has been taking off stateside where Kamen Rider hasn't, And it's because Supro isn't afraid to adapt with the times and try new things like digital distribution, the Marvel comic, or the Netflix anime to appeal to different markets. To love something means to accept both the good and the bad aspects of it, and to want to improve those parts that don't measure up to the 1000% standard. Did you know that in the 80s, Hanna-Barbera, the creators of Scooby-Doo, actually made a Ultraman cartoon for American audiences? It sounds crazy, but it's actually really good. I'll go ahead and link that in the description below, along with both of the movies that we've discussed today, in case you have, for whatever reason, decided to just watch basically an hour of me ranting about a Japanese children's cartoon with zero context. For some reason, Supro has embraced this revolutionary idea that people actually want to watch their shit. Listen, I could keep going. Zero becomes a mentor to Ultraman Jeed, and we'll certainly be discussing that in a follow-up video. But for now, if you would like to stay up to date to the channel on real time, my social media links will be in the description below. And if you would like to contribute to helping the channel grow, my Patreon and my Ko-fi will also be found there. For now, you may feel free to try to help me defeat the Humagears by leaving a like, a comment, perhaps subscribing and hitting that bell to try to make sure that we actually get my videos into your newsfeed. But until next time, I've been Tim Shields, and when it comes to tokusatsu, I'm your guy.
Presented by Zaya.